Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Conspiracy Farm, where we don't start the conspiracies, we just add the water. And now, your host of the most state-of-the-art, most informed podcast on the interweb, I present to you Pat Miletich and Jeffrey Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for war?
You know what that means, ladies and gentlemen. From the clocks chime to the cocks crow. It is another episode of the Conspiracy Farm. Jeffrey Wilson coming to you live and direct. Man, you know who I'm rolling with. UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich. How we doing today, champ? Hopefully better than me.
Well, I am doing good. I had a great fucking brutal workout earlier today. Did the torture mill, the revolving stairs for an hour at a high rate.
Jesus Lord.
Almost, 250 floors of stairs, so it was good for me. I needed it. And my mind's clear for what we're about to talk about. We've got some serious subject matter to discuss, don't we, my friend?
Yeah, man. There's definitely a lot going on in this old earth we have. I mean, first of all, just to obviously give shout-outs to all of our listeners, all of our farmers. I shipped out some T-shirts this past week. That was awesome. Keep them bad boys coming. If you haven't seen the news on the face space, I am going to be heading back to our hometown. People have been clamoring, man, you guys got to get on camera. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in St. Louis. Pat is in Iowa, where I will be heading here in just a couple weeks, and we will be knocking out more installments, more content for the Conspiracy Farm. We will always have that audio version, but we will have both of our pretty beautiful mugs here before too long. So if anybody wants to assist in the campaign, keep the machine rolling. Check out the PayPal link that we have on all of our episodes. Buy yourself a T-shirt. Make any kind of donation you have. I mean, we are in over 100 countries, champ. 200,000+ listeners. So much came from that Joe Rogan, man. That was awesome. If those 200,000 can just drop a buck, we're not talking about breaking the bank, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little bit. Every little bit counts. And I'm telling you, man, we are going to be taking this thing to the next level. So thank you to all the new farmers, all the old farmers. And I just, again, can't thank them enough, brother.
We need to have people comment on Facebook and Twitter on who's been around the longest. I'd like to know who our longest running fans are.
I did see a couple of YouTube comments, and they commented that they have been around since episode 1. So, that's always good, man. We're building a nice, loyal following. It takes time.
Yeah, it doesn't. Also, sponsors. We've got a few good sponsors that have stuck with us. Iowa Bison, Firehorse Combatives.
Yeah.
And a couple others. So,
Gentlemen's Cooperative. Yeah.
Yes, Gentlemen's Cooperative, which has outfitted me in some mighty fine suits for my broadcasts on Axis TV, which is ongoing every week. So, when you sent me, not to jump into this, but you sent me a list of some stuff that you wanted to cover. And the first one was alternative media infighting.
Yeah.
The word that comes to mind to me is not infighting, but infiltration.
Yeah. No, I mean, and we've said it so many times on the show when we talked about divide and conquer. It wasn't just all the different cylinders they have us firing on: racial, ethnic, sexual identity, politics. They have to weaponize this thing that we're doing here, this true, quote unquote, truth movement, this alternative media. They have to infiltrate it because there are a lot of people in this digital age. It's really hard to run game on folks. So they almost need a kind of an online version of Operation Mockingbird. And we're starting to see it, man. It's we're not going to mention any names, but I'm telling you, over the last few weeks, there's just been all kinds of now I could just see it for what it is, just kind of blatant infiltration and infighting, which I think is just basically used, like I said, to weaponize and to what's the word? To de-authenticate, to, throw shade on, just any kind of truth movement or truth. I hate to use that term, but because it's, I don't know, it's kind of cliche now, but just people who are researching, you know what I mean? Who aren't gobbling up the mainstream media horseshit, which they're just, heaping on at this point.
Well, yeah. And it's anything to, basically take away any legitimacy that alternative media has gained. And that's the thing that, is the most obvious. We've heard several people who are established alternative media folks say some really stupid things over the past month at least, and even longer, quite a bit longer, things that made zero sense. And when you look into it, dive into it, research the things that they're saying, when they have been on point, and then all of a sudden go completely off
Right.
the fucking reservation. You sit there and you go, either they were a plant from the beginning and now they're going off the rails, or somebody got to them and paid them some money. It has to be one or the other.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and even folks I've even spoken to, maybe not necessarily on the show, but even people maybe I've attempted to get on the show, but just never happened. I've heard them on other shows, now recently, like you said, talking shit like 9/11, there were no planes and they were holograms. I'm just like, wow. So, all right. You drop 98.9% real shit, and then that point whatever you just, I mean, that's disinfo 101. I mean, really, that's pretty much when someone is on the full disinfo tip, when they're just dropping seemingly just nothing but truthful information, and then you hear something like that.
Yeah, it's I'm just glad you and I aren't that fucking stupid to believe it. Number one.
Well, I mean, it's interesting though, Champ, because when I go back to when you were on Sam's show with Eddie, just you saying you were a Freemason, like that alone. I mean, the comments and shit. Just I know you. I know you're not a fucking satanic drinking blood out of an infant's skull. I mean, that's just this. How people run with shit they don't really know about. You know what I mean? People aren't really. They're almost half educated on some of these things, whether it's flat earth, whether it's the fucking Masons. I mean, people read these fucking like Masons for Dummies or whatever it is, and they think they're informed. This is almost like the people who get their news from the mainstream media. So it's like, to talk people off the fucking ledge sometimes can be exhausting, and that's really not our jobs to do people's homework for them, but it's just interesting, man, and it's been really kind of disheartening to me to see all this go down. Not that it's a surprise, and I didn't necessarily. Here's
the good thing, though: as you're watching everything go down at hyper speed, the sheep are going to be the sheep. We've saved a few souls from that mainstream media bullshit, and the light bulbs have gone off for people, but. Do you ever think, not this is going off on a tangent, but this is real shit here.
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder if when they talk about fluoride killing the pineal gland, and the pineal gland being the third eye,
right,
and the knowledge base and the connection to our superior being, our creator, this and that, and to true knowledge and to insight, and do you ever wonder if, like, we're seeing that where you have a conversation with someone, you present them with documented facts on what's really going on, and they refuse to believe it, they lose their mind, and they just stomp off or just say fuck off on, whether it's a conversation on social media or in person or whatever it is, and you go, fluoride hit them a little harder than me, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We all oftentimes have our biases that we defend, sometimes, to our own detriment. You know what I mean? That's why I always try to stay so open on information and stuff. But like I've said before on the show, people aren't looking for information. They're looking for confirmation for what they already believe. And it sucks, man, whether it's fluoride or whether it's just their own ego, their inability to take the ego out of the way. I mean, it's really fucking shit up. And then when you have this, this supposed option of this, truth, and, the internet has opened this world up so almost anybody can get on and talk shit just like we are, people have created certain audiences. People have built audiences around the information that they're supposedly bringing, that's supposedly truth. And sometimes it's absolutely not. And then it just takes us back to fucking square one almost. And I think, sort of moving on to our next subject, the Syria bombings, I think that's a huge fucking part of that, man. I think Trump's is just another level of gangster. But for me, when they raided his lawyer's office, and then this happens with the bombings, and I'm telling you what, watching Trump when he interrupted the news, that motherfucker did not look like, that was physically Donald Trump, but he looked like he was doing one of those POW videos. He looked very shook. And it's I don't know. What did they find something in the lawyer's office to say, like, dude, here's what the fuck's gonna happen? But like you said, they called ahead. I don't know if they called ahead to the Syrians, or I posted something on my thing that the basically the Russian equivalent of the DOD posted something on Twitter maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the alleged chemical thing, saying we have intelligence that the rebels, quote unquote, are going to the Syrian government is going to use chemical weapons in a false, you know what I mean? The rebels are going to use it in a false flag. So I don't know. Maybe we're wise to it and evacuated the necessary facilities, or Trump called them ahead of time. I don't know, man. But either way, the U.S. is still couching the narrative in he gassed his own people. And, ladies and gentlemen, go back 2 episodes or whatever it was with Dilyana Gaitanjeva, where she breaks the fuck down where these chemical weapons came from.
Right. Well, if you recall, we called ahead the last time we sent in Tomahawk cruise missiles into that air base. So I'm sure that they called ahead again. I'm sure that Trump's people had called ahead and said, look, this is what's happening. Get your people off out of these facilities. And we're just taking out the chemical capabilities, this and that. But, the word on the ground from some people is that some terrorist sites were hit, some storage facilities, some terrorist sites.
And you even floated that they were trying to just tease out the last elements of ISIS, that they were trying to bring them out.
Yeah, or just smash them and get rid of them once and for all, the last few strongholds of al-Nusra and ISIS. And, we know through several sources, including Dilyana Gaitanjeva, who was fired previously for discovering Western Bulgarian-made weapons in terrorist hands, which we know we knew long ago.
Right.
We knew years ago that McCain went over there and brokered a deal with friggin' terrorists, and ISIS and al-Nusra were the ones that got the weapons, and the rest is history. We've talked about this a million times, so we don't have to rehash it. But when Trump says, I want to get our troops out of there, I want our people out of Syria, I want to end this, and then what was it, a day later, there's a chemical attack?
Right.
I mean, that's pure desperation by the establishment, by the deep state, the cabal, to keep us there and to do the dirty work for the cabal, and that's all there is to it. And it's garbage. And I think that Trump sees through it. I think Mattis sees through it, and I think that there is some truth. Maybe we did hit some Syrian locations, some Syrian government locations, but there were also some facilities that were considered black sites, storage facilities, and potentially terrorist strongholds that got whacked by these missiles. So, maybe the British missiles were aimed at Assad's people or at his facilities, but ours were aimed differently. I don't know, but that's the talk. That's what's going on, and there were 0 casualties reported from Syrian government.
Supposedly they took down like 30% of them. I forget, their anti missile stuff took out quite a few.
Well, those would have been Russian anti-missile systems that would have knocked those down, because I doubt Syria had developed those on their own. I know that Russia had planned quite a while back to install those in different locations around at least Damascus and a couple other places.
Yeah, I was listening to former guest Sonny Puzikas the other day on his Facebook Live video, and he said that's pretty much what those were, Russian anti-aircraft and anti-missile systems, and they're supposed to be getting a newer version soon.
So I just, when you watch mainstream news, and now the follow-up talk is, number one, there's some idiots on there going, he did not have a right to strike Syria and all this other stuff, which, look, I'm along Rand Paul's line of thinking that, there's some people going, it wasn't an act, or it wasn't a declaration of war, it was a mission. Well, by those standards, Pearl Harbor was just a mission, right?
Yeah, that parsing of hairs, that's what pisses me off. I mean,
yeah, when you send missiles in and blow the shit out of somebody's city, of a sovereign nation, that's an act of war. Right. Okay, you need Congress to be able to do that. The only way I would agree with having Trump do this is if Assad and Putin and Trump were all on the same page and we're saying, listen, this is what's going on. We need to hit these chemical sites at these black sites, these terrorist storage facilities, and we need to hit the terrorists, and we're going to hit a couple of your facilities. So get your people out of there. We're going to cover up a little bit and do some stuff. Look, whether that's true or not, we're not sure, but there's an awful lot of people that seem to have one eye and half a brain that are talking that way. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, the grand chessboard is always interesting to watch play out. It just pisses me off that, the mainstream media, I mean, regardless of whatever kind of 4D chess that they are playing, it's, they're still saying he gassed his own people. The white fucking helmets got an Oscar for a documentary. I mean, the full-on psyop that's just being like, you've seen the shit I posted. The guy's taking Instagram pictures or, videos of children, little kids in schools or whatever they are, pretending like they're fucking dry heaving and convulsing, and a doctor's treating him, and then a few minutes later they all clap and stand up because they did such a great fucking job. I mean, the wicked psyop is in full effect. And for me, it's still, however they couch this, dude, limited strike or whatever, this is just delaying the inevitable. Wesley Clark said it in whatever year that fucking was, dude. 5 countries in 7 years. It's taken them longer, or whatever it was, 7 and 5 years. It's taken them longer, but Syria is always going to be on the table because, as we're going to talk, I mean, I wanted to ask you, what do you think this is really about, bro? I mean, we've talked about pipelines and this and that. This isn't about terror. You know what I mean? This grand chessboard is never about what they say it is. It's always about natural resources, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think's really fucking going on in Syria? Why they got such a hard on for it?
Well, I think there's a combination of things, to be honest with you. Obviously, it's resources of nations. That's what's going on in Africa. That's what's going on here in the Middle East. But I think it's an even bigger picture when you look at, and we're going to talk about Agenda 21. Agenda 21 basically is the central control of all the people on the planet, from national to state to local level. And you see it with roundabouts all of a sudden popping up in Iowa. You see it with the things that they're making farmers do to their fields and some other. But ultimately, it's about transferring the wealth of American citizens to the citizens of the world in poverty-stricken places. It's basically to equal out the playing field for everyone globally and make us all basically put us all in poverty is what this is about.
Under the guise of sustainable development, they say.
And yes, and to make us dependent upon that new god that is the UN, right? The globalists. So Trump has obviously put a wrench in those plans. He's done quite a bit of damage to that by lowering our taxes, by doing some other things, by not working with the UN, by pulling money out of global organizations, by pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord, many other things. Saying you can kiss our ass. We're in this for America. Okay, we're not in this for you guys. You guys need to take care of your own. And but it's ultimately about preparing America for poverty and controlling us. And also, there's much talk about in Agenda 21 is basically get everyone out of the rural areas and into cities. And then they can basically have their control of the resources, all the food, right?
A technocracy, if you will. Bill Gates.
And there's already massive corporate farming going on all over the world. It's going on here in Iowa. So
will you hear about the smart city Bill Gates is building in Arizona?
I wouldn't doubt it. I have not looked into that yet.
Yeah, I'll show it to you afterwards. But again, the grand chessboard. I think what's going on in Syria is you have a pretty serious fight going on with the people who have maintained what we have known as the U.S. petrodollar up until this point, who want pipelines and oil and certain resources flowing in the direction they want it to. And I'm telling you, man, the 10 trillion pound elephant in the room is China. I've talked about it all the time on this show with ASEAN and other things. China's One Belt, One Road policy runs through Syria as well. And they romanticize creating, modernizing the old Silk Road from, hundreds of years ago, but they're modernize it to create roads, railways, and maritime routes that pretty much lock down global trade. And then they have the pearl necklace, I think it's called the pearl necklace thing, around the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea, where they have bases in like Djibouti, Sri Lanka, where they have military, which then guards these trade routes. And I'm telling you, they're not too far off. And you look at the big hits we had in the stock market 2 days before China. I mean, the ramifications of this is absolutely huge, ladies and gentlemen. China announced their PetroYuan, which is basically away from the U.S. petrodollar. The U.S. petrodollar has been the global standard of currency since, I believe, since Bretton Woods in the 40s, but as it relates to oil in the 70s when Kissinger worked out the deal with the Saudis. When you have China, the largest consumer and importer of oil now trading their oil in their gold-backed currency, brother, this is an absolute game changer. And with all of that stuff, now Trump wants to supposedly jump back into TPP. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this is the next phase. And that the more we isolate ourselves, and this is the slippery slope. Trump wants to almost get in that isolationist America first, but that's almost what's allowing China to grow in the way that they are. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, I think that Trump basically is saying, we're going to get back in TPP, but under our own rules.
But he's doing it now because he probably knew before, but you have to see this behemoth that is the One Belt, One Road policy. You're talking about from the coast of China running rails all the way into Europe. You know what I mean? And then, all throughout Asia, all throughout, like I said, the maritime routes in the Indian Ocean. It is absolutely huge. I mean, China runs our ports here in Long Beach. China runs the Panama Canal. I mean, This is the move. The creation of the PetroYuan, ladies and gentlemen, is an absolute game changer. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's changing the game bigly.
I think that India is going to have something to say about that, because that all of that has to run through that contested area between those two nations, and they've already had skirmishes there, and I think that potentially turns into all-out war. I mean, anything to stop them, and it's central banking backed nations and central bankers doing their best to stop this BRIC nation movement with this gold backed Chinese note is what it is.
And I actually
that's the thing that's scary, is that guarantees a global war.
I started reading Zbigniew Brzezinski's The Grand Chessboard again, and he had stated in the first chapter they do anything they can to keep a Eurasian behemoth from usurping and taking over the United States. And this is, it's taken a while, but I think, you will always have the United States, I think, of course, but I cannot underestimate, not that I'm an economist, but just knowing how significant the U.S. petrodollar has been since, like I said, the 70s. The fact that, look at Saddam Hussein wanted to start trading his oil in euros. Look what happened to him. Look at Gaddafi, wanted to start trading his oil in, I think it's the dinar or some new kind of African currency. Look at what happened to him. So China, they can't just go in and fucking just take out China like that. But they're doing the same thing, and it is going to undermine the U.S. dollar big time. Some of these hits we've gotten in this trade war has a lot to do with this announcement of the Chinese PetroYuan.
Like I said, man, it's going to come down to just be happy that you're moving away from St. Louis, because St. Louis is probably going to get hit.
Big cities in general, ladies and gentlemen, people need to get. And I know it sounds somewhat doom and gloomish, but we should already have these skills. We should become more self-sufficient. We should know how to field dress a deer. We should know how to, create our own food from sowing it from germinating to consumption. We should know how to be taking care of ourselves and not be so dependent, because
who was it at the it was like, I forget what organization it was. It was Black Americans in a big conference, and there was a board of folks sitting up front, and one of them, I believe, I don't follow the pop music or rap music, R&B scene at all. I don't even listen to music that much anymore. But one gentleman that was sitting up front basically said the same thing that you're saying. He said they were talking about, he goes, look, man, he goes, black people have been talking about a revolution in this country for how many decades? He goes, raise your hands. How many of you guys truly know how to fish? How many of you guys know how to catch a fish?
Oh, you're talking about Killer Mike. I've asked to get him on the show. Yeah.
And he goes, how many of you know how to, clean a deer? How many of you know how to hunt or do any of this stuff he goes, you're not ready for anything.
Right. Yeah. Serious.
And that's the same thing for white America. Obviously there's a lot of white Americans that are farmers and stuff like that hunt and fish. And of course I certainly know how to fish. I can hunt decent, but I can catch fish in a fucking mud puddle. So, but yeah, that's the thing, is most Americans are completely helpless. And I had a conversation with a guy today on Facebook Messenger, he lives in Kansas, and he's a true country boy, and he's talking about the Chinese, being basically paper tigers and this and that. And I go, dude, I don't think you realize the situation. I don't think you realize that they're building islands right now to turn them into military bases. I don't think you've heard of One Belt, One Road. I don't think you understand that there's 50 million Chinese men that will never get married. So what do you do with them? You turn those guys into soldiers and you invade places if you have to, and just tear shit up.
Or have them building shit.
Right. So it's, it is what it is. But China is growing fast in military might, and of course their economy is massive and has overtaken ours actually.
Yeah, without a doubt. And like I said, it's not going to change. The game is not going to change overnight because the whole thing didn't start overnight. But the Chinese yuan, man, it's going to be enormous. It's going to be enormous. We'll have to just keep our eye on the value of the dollar. And again, this is the more macro analysis in my opinion. So we could talk right, left, and the political football, but I think this is kind of the larger thing that's going on in between all of that. As China grows, as we obviously are gonna, something's gonna happen in Syria, and then you have Russia, and then you have China saying they're gonna back Russia. What do you see going on, champ? Long term, not just long term. I mean, short term. To create the long-term vision we spoke of. Are they going to invade? Are they going to just occasionally do more false flags? I mean, they can't keep doing this for much longer. The white hats have been exposed. These videos are coming out of them falsifying these things. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I mean, look, number one, Russia can't allow Syria to be overthrown because Russia delivers natural gas to a massive amount of people in Europe. Okay, so Russia has a vested. That's why Russia is fighting so hard to not allow those pipelines to come through from Saudi Arabia and Qatar through Syria. When I look at it, when you look at the map of the Middle East, there are ways that you can run those pipelines where you don't have to go through Syria. Obviously, it makes it longer, but you could do it. So I think it's bullshit. That they have to destroy an entire nation, but I don't think that's what it's about. I think it's about what we already talked about, the resources, but it's also about, I think, displacing millions of people into other nations.
Yes.
And crumbling and putting a burden on the social programs of other nations, Western nations, so heavily that they collapse, and that's where Agenda 21 comes in again, right?
Agreed. Yeah, I think that's the longer term, and I think that's a perfect analysis too. People give
these are evil people. I mean, when you think about the people that started Agenda 21, Maurice Strong, who was part of the Chicago Climate Exchange bullshit, and he was former UN guy. The Clinton Global Initiative was all part of that and still is. What's that evil socialist international founder's name? That chick Grohart, whatever her last name is.
I'm not hip. I don't know.
I don't know, some crazy German chick. These are the types of people. They're self-avowed socialists and communists that want complete, total control of the globe and its resources and of all the people. So, that's what we're dealing with. These people are the ones that were the maestros, the designers, the engineers of this whole fucking program. And, imagine those few people at the UN controlling what America does with its resources, what America does with its croplands. Who gets to farm? Who gets to stay? Who's forced to move?
Right.
When they start, forcing us and writing new laws and taking land from people and everything else. That's what's going on. So it is all about, to the extent many believe it's move everyone into the cities like rats. Just pack them in, man.
Well, I mean, that's, I think, kind of the larger thing, too, the technocracy that they're creating. They want to kind of, for lack of a better term, metaphorically or physically tag you, give you a smartphone so they can track everything you do, give you your nanomedicine that tells you when to take, really have you locked into the world of AI and fucking Sophia. But another part of this that you've talked about, too, man, Syria didn't want the central banks in their country, and the central banks throughout history are the ones that give money to both sides just so they can kill a shitload of people and just make more money.
Well, think about it though. Here's the thing: can the central banks now bank with both sides if there's a war with China and Russia against? Well, and I'm sure that Pakistan would probably jump on Russia and China's side. India would probably end up on our side.
Oh, like you said, China's hugely invested in Pakistan right now.
These are all nuclear capable countries.
Yep.
Both Pakistan and India have nukes also. But when you see it all being mapped out and how it's playing out, it's a bit troubling. I mean, Trump is. I'm telling you, I think Trump is doing things masterfully. I think what he is doing is.
But look at what I sent you today, bro. Look at what I sent you today about George Soros backing Jared Kushner's his initial real estate startup.
Yeah, but
company.
None of that. There's some people saying that that's true, and some saying it's not. So I certainly can't base that. I can't sit there and say that that's fact. I could say that that's a possibility, and we need to look deeper into it. But if Trump, I think Trump's the guy he said he is. I think Trump is genuinely trying to get things done. He is riding a fine line. This is a balancing act that he and his people are.
I mean, look at Bolton comes in and then this happens.
I was just thinking that. I knew you were going to say that.
I mean, it's like between Bolton coming in and the FBI raiding his lawyer's office and this motherfucker getting up there looking like a POW victim giving a speech. I don't know, man. I mean, this is why we host the Conspiracy Farm. We get to float all these different hypotheses and theories, but I just don't know, man.
But here's the thing. When was the last time the FBI raided a president's attorney's office?
Exactly.
Okay. But here's the thing. I think so many laws were broken by doing that. Okay. Without Cohen and Trump knowing it was coming and okaying it for the purpose of the FBI taking their investigation of the Russian who paid Trump $150,000 for some short video speech. Okay, Trump talked for 5 or 10 minutes on a video speech to a corporate group in Russia and got $150K. That same Russian that paid Trump paid Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, $25 million. Okay, so when those files are pulled by the FBI, then they have to continue their investigation of that Russian and his involvement in business with Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Global Initiative, the Clinton Foundation, the DNC, and everything else that went on. Okay, so I think that there's more to it. I think that I try to look under the surface of the waves. Most people. You
have to. I mean, you can't. Yeah.
Well, yeah. You and I will look deeper into things, and that's where I'm looking. That I'm telling you, man. I think the Clinton investigation, when they said that they are, when they announced that they were investigating the Clinton Foundation and all that sort of stuff, this is all part of it, dude. This is what we're seeing. This is all part of it. This is a masterful job of smoke and mirrors by Trump and by Mueller, by all of these people, by Mattis commanding, forces to hit certain sites that, aren't being reported they got hit, but they got hit, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was hearing today supposedly 24,000 unsealed indictments up to, that's what it's up to now. And again, I've said it in other episodes, I don't know if this is just fucking hope porn, because I've now heard shit about Michael Horowitz, how he's compromised and he's actually deep state. I mean, because I've spoken many times on Michael Horowitz's, he was appointed by Obama, and his Inspector General report is going to supposedly really put a lot of this shit on blast, but then I'm hearing he's compromised too. So again, it's so much mis and disinformation out there. You only really know until the shit happens. But again, like you said, you always have to look deeper, and not the surface horse shit that they're giving us, because
I mean, Trump had to know what he was getting into, dude. He had to know what he was getting into. He's been around the Clintons. He's been around all these people. He knew what he was getting into with these people. He knew the fight that was coming. I mean, he just doesn't, I heard one of his speeches just a week ago, and he goes, look, what you're seeing on the news is not what's happening. He goes, we are hitting the deep state. We are hitting the deep state hard. We are dismantling these people. And he's laughing. He's cool as a cucumber.
Because the last few weeks, all we've heard about is really Stormy fucking Daniels. Like the Russian collusion thing really just got shat all over, and then all they have now is some, sexual impropriety or whatever, the porn star, whatever Stormy is. I don't know what the fuck she is, but I mean that's where they're at now. It's like the shit was all over 60 Minutes, et cetera, et cetera.
Which Trump is getting a divorce?
Yeah, I heard the Don Jr. is.
That was announced right after the Stormy Daniels stuff, dude.
Is that true?
Well, Don Jr. is getting a divorce. His wife's filed for divorce.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Do you see President Trump getting a divorce?
Well, shit.
No, he's not getting a divorce.
You
right?
can't really leave the president in office. This isn't House of Cards and shit.
So was it Papa having his attorney pay off Stormy Daniels because Don Jr. was the one that did it?
Right. I mean, my point is that's where we're at, dude. That's where the fuck we're at. We're at, we're on some TMZ shit as opposed to like this 20 minutes ago our conversation.
I'm just saying,
China.
Dude.
No, I'm with you.
There's so many smoke and mirrors going on, and Trump is. I'm telling you, dude. It's happened over and over and over, and it has, and you're sitting there already going, man, they raided his attorney's office. They got him by the balls. Oh, they're making him bomb friggin' Syria and all this other shit. Dude, next week, the worm's going to turn again, and Trump's going to be laughing at him.
Well,
Trump is setting these people up.
Look at our last few episodes, and I even told you this off air. I'm like, let's pull back from this horse shit for a little while. Because the whole conversation was getting so convoluted. That's why it was great to have on Dave Clark, Randall Carlson, etc. But it's like, I just kind of wanted to wait it out. I'm sort of wanting to just wait it out because there's so much horse shit out there. You could be absolutely right, and this could be one of the sickest fucking stings we've ever seen in the history of the world. Or he could be completely compromised, kicking the can down the road, pimping this hope porn left and fucking right, and then nothing ever happens. We see no real perp walks, 21,000 sealed or unsealed indictments of just random people, nobody big. That's what could possibly happen as well. We will see. We will fucking see, man. Hope springs eternal.
We are seeing politicians getting busted for human trafficking.
You got Paul Ryan resigning. He said that.
Paul Ryan resigning. There's a lot of people that are running again.
And we said that last summer, brother. Fucking maybe it was like we're gonna see some deaths and some early resignations, and we've seen hundreds of resignations.
Oh yeah. Tons of CEOs are
even politicians who aren't running again.
Right, a lot of them. But like I said, they have to start with the low-hanging fruit when it comes to these indictments, and these indictments are being served on people who are. They just took over control of Backpage.com, right?
Well, tell me that. I heard about that. I saw that in the news, and I haven't been as on shit as I should be lately. But what is that? I saw that.
The guy that started Backpage.com, that guy worked closely with the DNC. He did a ton of stuff with them. I mean, he got an award from President Obama. I'm almost 100% sure. So these guys just got busted, just got arrested, and Backpage.com was, a lot of human trafficking and child trafficking and all kinds of stuff was going on this thing.
What was it supposed to be about? What was Backpage's? I mean, was it
like a Craigslist thing?
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah. So basically, there was, I think, some sort of special area that only certain people knew how to get to when it came to human trafficking, child sex, all this other stuff. Wow. So anyway, it got seized. Those guys got arrested, and I believe that they did not have. I don't believe that they're even able to bond out. I think they're being held. They're not. They're not getting out.
Well, then you see one of the stars of Smallville got pinched out in L.A. for being a part of some huge.
The chick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for friggin' it was a sex ring, right?
Yeah.
Sex slave ring.
Yep.
Making these young girls who wanted to be stars in Hollywood friggin' perform sexual acts with these people. So there's some
that Weinstein shit was just a symbolic takedown. That was not low hanging fruit. That was big shit, but that was kind of the quiet the storm for a minute. But that shit is so prolific. I hit up Corey Feldman. I don't know if I told you that.
I saw that.
He hit me back and politely declined because he said he was promoting his movie. I'm like, brother, we're fucking in over 120 countries. What better spot? And we had on Craig Sawman Sawyer. I'm like, we're talking human trafficking and pedophilia and all that other shit, but I guess he wants to do more PR stunts where he pretends he gets stabbed.
Well, and we had Sonny Puzikas on and talked about the organ trafficking. And just today I posted on my Facebook page that 18,000 children have had their organs harvested in Syria. 18,000 children. And then we go on to Yemen.
In the last, 4 years? It was in the last few years, right?
Right. And there's 1 million people who suddenly come down with cholera in Yemen, and hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of children have been stolen out of the hospitals there when the parents took them in. So, look, this is all verified. This is all true. This is not made up shit, people. This is real stuff. 18,000 children. Look, I've got a 15-year-old daughter, a 13-year-old daughter, and a 4-year-old daughter. And 18,000 children have had their organs harvested from their bodies. How many of those organs ended up in St. Jude's?
And that's just Syria. That's just Syria.
Right. Not to mention the other nations around the world, in Africa and other places of poverty, when they're just taking these kids and doing this.
And honestly, bro, when I didn't hear Trump's announcement to the world, but somebody texted me and said we're bombing Syria, and I was so fucking upset, man. And when I hear this, part of me thinks about whose side is Trump on and all that shit, but I just literally, bro, I think about all the wars, quite frankly. I think about the little girl in Vietnam running down the road with fucking her skin hanging off her body because she got hit with napalm. I think about, what the number you just cited. It's like, war is a motherfucker. And so many of these times, man, it just does not have to fucking happen. It's always these assholes behind the scenes, from the central bankers who want to fund both fucking sides down to the fucking boots on the ground in the media who help perpetuate this shit. It fucking sickens me to no end, dude. And I know we're not going to fucking change the world, and this shit's been going on a very long time, but I implore people to fucking just kind of wake the fuck up and recognize that, man, we're being lied to, and some dark fucking evil shit is happening because of our acquiescence in allowing this shit to happen, man.
Well, here's the thing. Look, I support Trump. I do still believe that he's doing the right thing for America. I think that he's doing the right thing globally. I think that he truly is fighting the deep state. I think he's fighting the global cabal.
Somebody's trying to holler at you, bro.
Yeah, it's never ending. I think that Trump is truly trying. I really do. And I think that, if what he's doing in Syria is correct, what I'm hearing in terms of, simply attacking the terrorists and getting rid of them, and just, is there some sort of deal going on between he and Putin to go after these globalists? And then once these globalists are taken down, then it's, is that then some sort of new world order? Is it now the Trump family and the Putin family that control the world? Potentially, they could be doing it for diabolical purposes. But
we'll see if Russia starts trading their oil. If Russia starts trading their oil in fucking Chinese yuan, then we know the answer to that question.
Well, yeah, of course. But look, Trump has mentioned several times. He even said it a couple times during his campaign that he wanted to leave the central bank, kill the Fed. Right? We need a gold-backed dollar again. Right?
They all say shit during campaign mode.
Look, if every nation had some sort of financial system that was backed by something tangible, all independent financial, their own monetary system, there can still be trade. So that's where these fucking people who think that globalism is great, all these lemmings out there who think that we all should be, one currency, one digital currency, this and that. No, that's when a few people truly do control us. Every country should have its own currency backed by something tangible, and we can still trade, and we can do the math on the trade. Okay, my dollar's worth a little bit more than your whatever it is
for now.
Note you've got
for now,
but we're still able to trade stuff, guys.
Yeah.
We're still able to do this. Okay, so that's the thing that pisses me off the most, is people not just understanding that simple concept.
Man, if I could just, I wish I had the fucking DeLorean, dude. I would love to just, like, 10 years, even 10 years from now, like, what the fuck this shit's gonna look like? 15, I honestly think, man, and we've talked about this on the show before, we're not even in the middle, we're maybe getting past the middle, but we're just in the middle of this, like, larger plan, and it's just, it's wild to see this whole thing fucking play out, because history, when I heard Trump the other fucking night, it just reminded me of Lyndon Johnson. I even posted that on my Facebook page. Lyndon Johnson, saying, hey, we got to go to war in Vietnam because we were attacked on the high seas of Gulf of Tonkin. I mean, you can almost transpose each of these fucking guys, speech to get us into war.
It's over and over and over again. And
them using, I don't know if people have seen this, the Gulf War, when they used the Kuwaiti ambassador to the U.S.'s daughter. She was crying and talk about Iraq
pulling babies out of
incubators. I mean, it's just, there's no fucking end, man. There's just no end. And just think about all the people who have died for these fucking lies. You know what I mean? It's insane. It boggles my fucking mind.
Here's the thing. So when that was 1990, 1991, when Saddam Hussein supposedly invaded Kuwait, correct?
Yeah. My fucking big bro, shout out to Lance Wilson. He's a fucking Marine Corps infantryman, dude. Tip of the spear and went into that shit.
I know. And here's the thing. Think about this now. This might blow your mind, buddy. Think about all the false flags that we have, through our research uncovered, right? Gulf of Tonkin, these white helmets in Syria, these false chemical attacks, or not false chemical attacks, but false flag attacks perpetrated by someone other than Assad's government, Assad's troops, and so on down the line. What's to say that all those tanks you saw on the newscast sitting outside that hotel in Kuwait City? Now, I've been to Kuwait. I've been to Kuwait City. I stayed in the hotel that film was taken out of the front windows of, with all those tanks, where there were artillery rounds and small arms fire, that the marks on the walls, the concrete walls, were still visible when I stayed in that hotel in Kuwait City.
Right.
Okay. Who's to say that those weren't, that whole thing wasn't a false flag? Was that even Saddam Hussein's people? Or were those people in uniforms made to look like Iraqi soldiers in some old freaking Russian Soviet era tanks blowing the shit out of Kuwait City and making it look like an actual invasion was happening? I don't know.
Dude, there's stories of back in the day of fucking Dick Cheney and his evil ass taking doctored photos into whomever he had to, Joint Chiefs or whomever he had to show these photos to, of digitally manufactured photos of Iraqi tanks on the Saudi border. They're like, dude, we have to fucking do this because they're on their border about to invade Saudi Arabia. I guess that was a part of the horse shit that drummed up the whole war thing. But at the end of the day, dude, it was always a fucking lie. We gave Saddam Hussein permission. Hey, dude, I'm going to go take this fucking oil in Iraq. Go ahead, dude. Go ahead. We made Saddam Hussein, for fuck's sake. We trained him to fucking kill the Iraqi president in whatever year that was. He failed, but he was our fucking dude. We created that fucker. And they're like, yeah, go invade, Kuwait. And then when he did, Bush went on there and gave his little horseshit speech. I just tire of this, bro. I'm glad we get to do this show.
And what I'm saying is that in no way, shape, or form am I saying that was a false flag attack by, false Iraqi troops, because obviously there was the highway of misery with thousands upon thousands of vehicles that got crushed by our gunships.
Convoy of death.
So, I'm just throwing things out there just to make people think that and understand that, there's a lot of false flag stuff that goes on. And it is, I think, 100% true in the case of Syria. It certainly was in the case of Gulf of Tonkin for Vietnam, so.
The fucking Maine to get us into the Spanish-American War. We knew the Japanese were coming in World War II. I mean, it just... we can get into 9/11 another time, but I mean, dude,
we didn't know the Japanese were coming. The British knew that they were.
Well, I've read reports I've read reports that certain top naval cats knew that shit was coming, and there were subs that picked up whatever. That's again, it's war is a fucking machine, dude. Snudley Butler. But before we get out of here, ladies and gentlemen, because I know we're just cheering everybody up with this awesome fucking conversation of how the war machine gets down. But, I want Patrick, man, if you don't mind, dude, you had an opportunity to speak this week at a conference in Iowa talking about the opioid crisis, man. I mean, this is... And we're going to do a show on this too. I think we absolutely need to, Pat. The numbers are just staggering. You're talking about the whole Vietnam War deaths in 1 year for last however many years due to the opioid crisis, man. Talk about what you talked about and how fucking heavy this shit is, man. And I saw you posted something the other day. A fucking cop touched some fentanyl and he had to get the Narcan thing.
I think he either touched it or just accidentally breathed in some dust when he opened the baggie, and it OD'd him instantly, and they friggin' had to hit him with the Narcan, and bring him back to life. So, I had, through my work with just hanging out and becoming friends with.
Turn that fucker off. We're going to get comments right. Like, can Pat please turn off his fucking phone?
Dude, I know. But listen, here's the thing. In my friendship with David Clark, he's a guy that is an amazing ultra runner, and we've had him on this show. But we have had him on here, haven't we?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So anyway, David was, a 320-pound alcoholic, addicted to opioids. He'd eat handfuls of them at a time, and through his sobriety, he's decided to, that's part of his fight with the opioid and heroin addiction and the nightmare that's going on around the country. That's when I first really became kind of more aware that it was really a true problem, right?
Fucking epidemic, dude.
And when I think in retrospect, the crazy thing is that my two oldest brothers, who both committed suicide, were both addicted to painkillers and heroin. And I sit there and I think, shit, that was two early victims in all of this, right?
Yeah.
And the heroin's been killing people for decades.
For sure. The accessibility now is just fucking insane.
Right, but now that they're cutting it with fentanyl, now it's mass killing. I mean, people are dropping left and right. There's tons of ODs here in the Quad Cities alone, let alone every other city around the country. But, you sit there and you say, it's like the number of deaths is like 21 9/11s happening a year.
Yeah.
Right? That's the number of people that are dying. 8 747s a month crashing that are completely full. That's the number of people that are dying. 95% of all people that get addicted to heroin die from it. One way or another, they end up dead. They never get the monkey off their back. 95%.
Did you get an age demographic? Because they're starting earlier and earlier, and they're dying younger and younger. I
didn't really. But the thing that scared me too is, one of the police officers that was there, who was in the narcotics division, they have to take a different approach right now, because it's, they're sitting there saying, look, we want people to call the police to come and get these people when they're potentially ODing. People aren't calling because they're worried they're going to get arrested.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's not the way we're treating this anymore. We need to get there and get Narcan in their nostrils and save these people and get them to treatment. And many times it's the mental health side that will take them quicker, so they have to go that route, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's just this huge war that's going on. And I just, listened to a doctor talk about a commission, the Joint Commission, that they're the ones that are responsible for all of this. The commission that basically gives hospital accreditation to open their doors to begin with have a rule, and it's called the Fifth Sense Rule. And and you've been asked it if you've been to a hospital, and everybody listening has been to a hospital has been asked the same question: from 1 to 10, how much pain are you in? And they give you something for the pain, right?
Right.
The commission for a hospital to even keep its doors open has to do that, and has to prescribe a certain amount of painkiller to people per year, or they get their doors closed. So this commission is solely responsible for this fucking nightmare that is destroying so many lives around this country every year.
Wow.
So that commission needs to be investigated. The people on that commission need to be investigated, and we need to we need to have guests on that are knowledgeable about this subject, to the point where we can truly educate our listeners on this nightmare and the corruption that is going on in the pharmaceutical industry and with this commission and other groups.
Yeah, because I think that's a huge deal, man. Even when we talked about the shooting stuff, the overprescription of so many of these drugs is such a huge part of this. And of course, we could talk about processed foods and diet and all that other stuff, but I mean, these things are actually changing your brain chemistry, and the epidemic that has been wrought from not only
That's the thing. That's the thing. When you talk about brain chemistry, it is, for anybody that's listening, what is it that you like to do? Say one or two or three things that you truly love to do that gives you pleasure, that releases those chemicals in your brain. Right? Well, yeah, but to where you have that feeling of true pleasure. And now understand that, these opioids and heroin do the same thing to your brain, to where eventually you've dumped so much of this chemical that you no longer look at anything you love to do and even care.
It damages your I think they call it your rewards receptors. You're like, it's your serotonin. I don't even know if it's serotonin, but your reward receptors get fried because you just over inundate them with those chemicals.
Right. So it's
the numbers are just, when I hear 60,000, I can't, Vietnam
I think
War
it's
in 1 year.
65,000 last year. So that's what, 10,000 more than the Vietnam War?
The Vietnam was 58,000.
58. So,
And that's not even counting, there were just as many of those heroin overdoses when they came home too. So heroin's been around for a while, man. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with this, Patrick J. Militich. We need some more love in the club or something, dude.
Well, that's the thing, that's the point that I was bringing up is, look, you and I host a podcast. You are an actor. You also do a lot of other things. You're a versatile human being. I've done, a lot of different jobs in my life. There were police officers sitting at this town hall up at the table with me in front of the crowd. There was medical professionals. There were, there were counselors. There were, other people who were well versed with this disease. And my thing is I said, people need to seek happiness one way or another. That's how we change this. For the most part, is that we have to educate people. And what I used to tell my fighters is, look, fighting is what you do. It's not who you are. Okay. When fighting's gone and you're no longer who you thought you were, you never found yourself to begin with, right? So you're not Jeff the actor, you're not Jeff the podcast host, you're not Jeff this, Jeff that. You're Jeff, my friend. You're Jeff who obviously you've dove into yourself enough to find yourself. I've had to do that. Everybody needs to do that. David Clark is the greatest example I've ever seen of someone who's done that. Yeah. To reverse his life completely, and that's what I told the crowd is the only people who've made it out the other side of this addiction are people who chose happiness, right?
And to, like you said, to not attach yourself to it. You know what I mean? It's not your life. It's not your overall life. We're all, however you want to phrase it, children of God, stardust, infinite loving consciousness. That's our life situation is our job, our relationship, or whatever. So when they end, the more attachment, and that's just basic Eastern philosophy, the more attached we are to it, the more suffering we have. That's essentially what we talked about with Dave Clark too. And I think we should all kind of take more of that and stop defining ourselves externally and by our immediate circumstances, etc.
It's all a material world, right? It's what kind of car do I drive? What kind of house do I live in? What kind of clothes do I wear? Dude, I shop at Goodwill.
Damn straight.
I mean, come on.
Damn straight. I've gotten some fly shit at Goodwill.
I want my kids to have nice stuff, but I don't give a shit. I fucking go to Goodwill. I don't give a fuck.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Look, I mean, the only thing I think about is, God, I hope somebody doesn't recognize me and think I'm an asshole because I've maybe got enough money to buy a new pair of jeans, but I just don't want to fucking buy a new pair of jeans because I don't care.
Right. No, I
don't care. I don't care if there's a stain on my shirt or a hole in it or my shoes are ratty. I just don't give a fuck.
That's the cool, interesting.
You should see what I wear for shoes half the time and jeans when I'm doing a broadcast. I wear a suit coat and a dress shirt that luckily Gentlemen's Cooperative was kind enough to friggin' give to me for my broadcast. But my jeans have holes in them and I got friggin' ratty ass running shoes on,
Perception is reality, right? You look good.
Well, that's awesome. That's what you got to do. I mean, that's just kind of the way I think, I guess. I just, maybe some people are like, God, Milton's a fucking slob. I just don't care, man.
I mean, honestly, I mean that's you probably. I mean, you're just a chill cat anyway. But that's honestly the almost the extension of being a martial artist. You know what I mean? You've learned to take the ego out of shit. Like you're just you're that dude, man. You know, it's not that you don't give a shit. You just realize that
that comes with a lot of years of getting your ass kicked. You know, and you're not the man.
The least thing I'm worried about is my fucking jeans, for real. Damn.
That is truth, brother.
All right, champ. Well, check it out, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know when you guys will hear this, but Pat and I are going to be on Sam Tripoli's podcast, the Tinfoil Hat Podcast. Myself, Pat Milicich, Sam Tripoli, as well as the great Eddie Bravo, talking about a great many things. Hopefully fucking not flat earth, for the love of God. But yeah, we call that a swap cast. So we're going to be on his show, and then we're going to post that on our site as well.
Dude, let's just buy motorcycles and ride straight off the fucking edge. Right? Let's just flat earth fucking commit suicide flat earth style.
Some Thelma and Louise shit. Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys were uplifted by this. Actually, I mean, truthfully, this conversation obviously had to be had. We were on the Tinfoil Hat Podcast. We really needed to address the Syria thing. People were asking, kept messaging me, when are you guys going to talk about it? So here we talked about it, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk about it as these things develop. Any closing statements, comments, champion?
No, I hope everybody enjoyed the podcast, and I'm sure we're going to have a blast with Eddie and Sam.
Yeah, we'll have that posted whenever they post it, probably tomorrow evening or Tuesday. So we'll let you guys know. But champion, as always, brother, it's been a pleasure, man. You know, I love you, man. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we need more love in the club, brothers. So give your loved ones a little hug. Let them know you love them. Man, this sweet thing we know as life is short for sure. And
have fun and live large no matter what.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, peace and so much love. Stay tuned. There will always be more.